Right. Thanks everybody for coming. This is our webinar all about experiencing Sewanee, which is about getting involved, making friends, and navigating all of the social opportunities that you will have as a student. In just a second, I'm going to have panelists introduce themselves, but want to give you a quick run through of the features of our webinar platform. We are using a Zoom webinar, so that means that the best way to submit your questions is through the box that says Q&A down at the bottom. If you open that, you can submit a question, including a question anonymously, and we will either ask the panelists, or if it's something super specific, I may just respond to you directly. You can also send a question in the chat if you prefer to do that, and we will make sure that it gets answered. We also are recording this so that people who miss out can watch it later, and we're glad those of you who are watching it later are watching it. So at this time, I'm going to ask all of our panelists, our current students, to pop onto the screen, and we'll do some quick introductions. There they are. So I am Emily Britt. I serve as the Associate Dean of Students here at Sewanee, which is a really cool job that means I get to do lots of different things. You will see me in many different ways on campus as a student, but one of those ways means that I oversee orientation, which is one of my favorite parts of my job because I get to welcome new students and work with some of our awesome student leaders to welcome you. So to kick us off with introductions, I'm going to ask Faith Humphrey to go first.
Okay, hi, my name is Faith Humphrey and I'm from Chatsworth, Georgia. I will be a senior in the fall and I am an orientation director on campus, amongst other things.
Mm-hmm. And Faith, can you tell us your favorite Sewanee tradition?
Yes, my favorite tradition is the Order of the Gown because one, I love when people come on campus and they're like, why is everybody in Harry Potter robes? And two, I like to see how everyone decorates their gown because it's one of the things that I think make everyone unique at Sewanee.
Great answer. Okay, up next is Morgan.
Hi, I'm Morgan Canty. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I'll be a senior in the fall, currently in Birmingham, Alabama, taking summer classes. But my favorite Sewanee tradition is not stepping on the seal until you graduate, because it's funny to see people almost, break their necks trying not to step on it whenever we go into All Saints.
Yeah, trying to dodge it. That's a good one. Virginia, can you go next?
Hi, my name's Virginia. I'm from Mobile, Alabama. I'm going to be a sophomore next year, and I'm an STA representative. And I'd say my favorite Sewanee tradition is the comprehensive exams, or we just call them comps. So basically at Sewanee, there's the comprehensive exam at the end of senior year for every major. And what happens is, after they finish that exam, everyone just gathers outside to celebrate. So I just love seeing people, support each other.
That's a great one too. Alexis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis. I am a rising senior, politics major, and I'm from little old Fairview, Tennessee, west of Nashville. Faith, actually, I'm also president Order of the Gown. So I would say the gowning is probably my favorite tradition. But to add on to it, because we have so many wonderful ones, I also love tapping the roof before and when you come back into the gates of Sewanee to grab your little angel to watch over you.
There's lots of that as you drive through. It's always funny to me. And Stuart.
Hey y'all, my name is Stuart Miller. I'm a rising senior from Montgomery, Alabama. One of the organizations that I am involved in at Sewanee is the Inter Fraternity Council. And favorite Sewanee tradition, I'm kind of split. I love the gowning ceremony. It's always a really special moment, but also like Shake Day a lot too. So I would have to go with those two.
That's a good one, especially given your role on IFC, welcoming those new members into our Greek community. All right, so again, like I said at the start, today we're going to talk about getting involved, making friends, and making Sewanee feel like home. So to kick it off, my first question for the panel, and anybody can go first, is what do you think is the best way to make friends at Sewanee if you're coming here without knowing a single person who attends Sewanee?
Okay, I can go. When I transferred here, I literally did not know a single person, so I was like extremely scared walking in. But I think the best thing to do to make friends is like keep an open mind you're going to get to meet a lot of people in orientation, and you're going to get to meet, see a lot of things you're interested in at the resource fair. And just go ahead and dip your toe in those groups. You don't even have to do them if you sign up. But if you think you might be interested, I joined a bunch of groups, and then I met people with similar interests through those. And so I've met a lot of my friends that I still talk to on a daily basis that way. So I'd say that's a really good way to meet people, especially when you don't know anybody else.
Good.
I think another great way is every dorm that you live in will have its own little group me. And so one of my favorite ways that I made friends freshman year was just putting in the group chat, or one of your friends would put in the group chat, hey, we're going to the lake. Anyone want to join? And so always taking those opportunities in your smaller, even just your dorm life, to go out there and hang out with people. I don't know. One time we went caving. I don't cave, but I loved the people that I went caving with. And so it's a fun way, if you're open in the group me, to kind of those experiences, or you're the person who invites, just depends on who you are.
That's awesome.
And building on making friends in your dorm, I think one of the greatest things you can do is just be very open, talk to people in your dorm. I remember one way that I made a lot of my friends that I'm still very close with to this day is I wanted to watch a movie with someone in the dorm I was friends with, and we walked around the dorm. We were trying to set up the TV. And in the process of walking around and setting up a TV, we ended up with 10 people watching a movie. And then we had a weekly movie night for all of first semester. So even little things like that, just meeting up, having, and always remember to keep meeting people, because, it can take some time to find your people, but it's good to know as many people as possible, because I'm still friends with all of them to this day.
Great. Okay, let's jump to the next one. So what did you find to be the most difficult part of transitioning from high school to college?
I think my hardest thing from transitioning from high school to college was my studying habits, because I was one of those kids in high school where I just, read over the notes night before and I was good to go for the exam. Cannot do that here. Learned that the hard way in a biology class, might I add. But just figuring out studying habits and what works for me was the hardest part of me from transitioning to high school to college.
Lots of head nodding. Other thoughts?
I was gonna say, I think another thing is in high school, I was a year-round athlete and was involved in all this stuff and doing things on the side to build my resume. So when I got to college, I had a lot more freedom. And so just figuring out what to do in that time that felt like I was still making an impact for other people and stuff like that was a big challenge for me from high school to college, because you're able to do whatever you want instead of being under your parents for the first time.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Stuart? What was the hardest part for you?
Gosh, tough question. I think for me, it was interesting to go from a really small high school to a comparatively bigger school. My graduating class in high school had 58. So getting to Sewanee, being in a sea of just all these, new folks, it was kind of overwhelming that first week or two, but you kind of get into a rhythm almost. And I think that staying busy is a really good way to kind of counteract that you know anxiety there. But yeah, I would say that it was a little bit, I did kind of have to take a step back almost, and in terms of it just being whoa, that's kind of a lot.
Yeah, it can be overwhelming. Some people are coming from really small schools like Stuart, and some are small. This is, this is not bigger, right? Some of you are probably in high school graduating classes that are quite large compared to Sewanee. So you'll find people of all shapes and sizes as it relates to their high school experience. Okay, so for some people, coming to college is the first time they've lived away from home. So how did you manage homesickness, or sort of navigating that transition to living on your own, not just going to school or making friends on your own?
I can start with this one. So I actually had to like reflect back on this pretty recently because my sister will be a freshman this fall at Furman, but she kind of asked me like good ways to kind of get around that. And I think one of the things that helped me was just staying busy and like not kind of like sitting in like, just like your room, like kind of staying out of that because it is easy to kind of do the things that feel super comfortable. But I think that to some extent you do kind of have to lean into being at least like a little bit, you know, on, uh, uncomfortable almost, and that you'll find that, you'll meet a lot of great folks if you just like kind of put yourself out there, which can be super scary. But I think that if you just stay busy and find ways to get involved on campus, that's a really great way to kind of take your mind off of the fact that it can be tough to be away, from home.
Great advice.
I
And
think, oh, you want to go over ahead? Oh, okay. So I live pretty close to home, but I think part of the balance there was, I know I live 2 hours away, but I don't want to go back all the time to kind of fend off that homesickness, because you want to embrace the experience here, and so a lot of it was actually bringing traditions from home into a new little space. So I remember freshman year, I started doing Sunday brunch. And it was for me, and then other people started coming down. But for me, it was being able to cook in a kitchen, things that I used to do at home. That helped fend off the homesickness. And I didn't end up calling home a ton, but the calls home always made it a little bit better when you were, missing the family.
Love that. Virginia, do you have anything to add? Don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, I kind of had the opposite issue where, I'm not very far away. I'm in Mobile, Alabama, but I was about a 7-hour drive from home. So, it was, difficult to see family and things like that, not an insurmountable distance, not as far away as, halfway across the world. But I found the best thing for being away from my family was to build positive routines. Like I'm going to hang out with these people every night so that I'm, having friends nearby that you can be with and talk to. I also took advantage of the community kitchen when I felt homesick. I made like a pasta recipe my sister used to make. And really just like building your own community that you can rely on when things get tough is probably the biggest thing that helped me.
That's great. Okay, last question in this section is also coming to college might be the first time that many students have a roommate and actually share a room with somebody, because many of us, and I'm sure many of you grew up in your own room. So those sort of roommate dynamics can be complicated and people might be worried they're not going to get along. So what should somebody do if they're feeling nervous or anxious about having a roommate or not getting along with their roommate once they get here?
I don't know if they already got roommate assignments yet, or if they, got that information. But what I did my freshman year, they told me who my roommate is, gave me her email. I emailed her and was like, "Can I get your phone number? Like, let's talk about what our living situation is going to be." And from there, we talked about like certain rules that we wanted, like, no guests after like this amount of time. And if there are guests, do you want me to leave the room for that period of time? Can I stay? Things like that. We also talked about what we were gonna bring because both of us can't bring a fridge. We don't have enough space. So we wanted to make sure we got that out the way. And I personally did not have a problem with my roommate. If you do have a problem with your roommate, there are proctors in the dorm. You can go to them. You'll fill out a roommate like rules thing. I want to say first night there. I'm not too sure, but you will fill out a form about like what the rules are and like what rules y'all want to set for your room. And if either you break those rules, it's written down so the proctor will know, like, we set these rules, like don't break them. And you can go and talk to your proctor if you are having a roommate situation.
Great tips from Morgan. What else would people add about having a roommate?
I would say I kind of touched on this earlier, but keep an open mind. Since I transferred in, I was put with a freshman, so I was a little worried because I was like, oh, like they're actually getting their first taste of freedom. Like I had it last year. And so I was like, oh no. And Morgan kind of touched on this too, but if you can, like, find them beforehand and like talk to them because you'll kind of get to know their vibe. But I loved my roommate when I transferred here, and I'm like super thankful that I was placed with her. And like, don't worry too much because Sewanee does a good job matching you with people who you're compatible to, like with the questions you answer. So you might think like, oh, like I don't know if I can room with a person. Like, no, y'all two are very similar. That's why you're in a room together. So try not to worry too much and just keep an open mind going in there and know that like both of you have likely never shared a room with somebody before. So it's gonna be a little adjusting for you both, but you can do it. I promise.
Great advice. My sage associate dean advice is remember, you have to be good at living with this person, which may not be your best friend. And your best friend may be terrible to live with, right? Like those are different things. And so really think about, you might end up being best friends. That's awesome. That's like gold star amazing. But how do you live well with somebody? What do you need out of sharing a space and living in community with them, even if y'all's lives on campus are totally different outside of that space? I think that that is important to remember as you come in to find your roommate. And if you have issues, talk to your proctor. We'll help you. Nothing is unsurmountable in the roommate department. Okay, let's talk about clubs and organizations. Y'all have mentioned that a little bit already, but maybe talk to us about what orgs you have joined since you came to Sewanee and why did you join them?
Okay, I know y'all probably sick of hearing me talk, but this is my favorite thing to talk about because I was that child that they warned you about where they're like, don't sign up for everything. I was her. She is me. I went around every table at the activities fair and put my email down on every sheet, even on things that I know I wasn't going to do, like rowing. I didn't even know what rowing was, but they have a rowing club and I signed up for it. I probably didn't go to the meetings, but I signed up for it just in case. But some organizations that I have joined, I'm part of Greek Life in a sorority. I am a peer pre-health, well, pre-physical therapy peer advisor. That is a mouthful in itself. I'm also part of the psych committee, which is the Sewanee Inclusive Excellence Committee. It's too many acronyms going on right here, but um, the reason why I joined these organizations is first off, when I got here, I just, put my name down on a bunch of stuff just so I could, get a feel of what I wanted to do. As I grew and, found out what I wanted to do at Sewanee, I dropped the clubs that I didn't want to do and focused more on the clubs that I like doing. I'm a pre-PT student, so I wanted to be an advisor, help those who are thinking about being pre-PT or, are curious but not too sure if they want to do it. So my best advice would just be, just branch out. It's okay to put your email on every sheet. You don't have to sign up. I mean, you don't have to show up to everything, but just like branching out in case you want to, like, just be like, hey, I'm free at 6. Like, let me go see what this rowing club is about. So yeah.
Okay, so Morgan was like, I'm here for everything. What else do people do?
So I kind of had like not the opposite experience of this, but a very different experience. Coming into Sewanee, I already knew what, or I already knew of a couple of like groups that I was going to be a part of. I was going to be a member of the, and I mean, still am a member of the, you know, soccer team here, a Bonner, and I knew that I wanted to rush, but I didn't really think I would like expand out of that. I was like, those three are, you know, cool, great. And I found that once I got more involved in those orgs that I built outwards from there, and I was able to join things like IFC. And so I think that that works well for a lot of folks, is like starting small and just kind of like working outwards from there. Once you kind of meet folks that you want to be around, and then you can meet, people through them and kind of see what, fits you well. So, yeah, that was kind of my journey with all of that.
Yeah. So you're already committed to soccer and to the Bonner program to volunteer. That's awesome. Kind of knew where you were headed. Other thoughts? Faith, Alexis, Virginia, anybody?
Yeah, just to emphasize, there are so many different organizations that you can join. I remember walking around the activities fair and seeing just this dancing group, and I think they do one certain type of dance and they'll practice on the quad. And it's very specific, very niche. I signed up for it because why not? I was kind of in the same boat as Morgan, where you just want to do everything under the sun just to get a taste of the different sides of campus. But I'm part of Greek life. I'm in a sorority. Order of the Gown doesn't come until later, but it's a great organization to kind of affiliate yourself with early on if they need help with events and stuff. That's how I ended up being a part of it. And there's also a different side of Sewanee where, yes, we have 1.5 billion different organizations to join, but if there's not something that is your cup of tea, it's also very easy to start something. The process it's fairly simple. I ended up founding an organization my freshman year for a political organization on campus because I just thought that was something that was missing and something I was passionate about. So join everything that you can if you want to, but if there's not something that brings you joy, then just start it, because there are going to be other people on campus who are ready to dive into that side of the world.
There are so many things. So one of y'all alluded to, you've all talked about this, but can somebody tell me, maybe Faith, can you tell me what's the activities fair? When does it happen? And how do I get a taste of all these different clubs?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Dean Brett. But the activities fair happens on the last day of orientation. So you'll go do your honor code signing at the chapel. And then while you're in there, we're setting up all the tables with the clubs in the common area right there and in the quad. And you'll get to walk out and just see all these tables, and you'll probably be overwhelmed at first, and then you're going to walk around, and no joke, there's so much free stuff. Like, walk around even if you don't want to join stuff, because there's literally free stuff at every table. So there's that, and then you can find every organization on Engage at Sewanee. So you can go to the website and just see every single organization that's registered at Sewanee. And so that's where, like, what Alexis was talking about, if you don't see something that like might be your cup of tea, you can go ahead and start like brainstorming. Oh, maybe I want to add like this to campus, and you can see that there.
Yeah. And you can connect with your friendly SGA senator who can talk to you about the new org process, since SGA approves all new student organizations. That happens at the beginning of the fall, and it's very fun. Okay, so separate from clubs, right, who do lots of things and great ways to make friends, what have been some of your favorite like fun events or activities that you've done? What are your sort of favorite things that happen on campus?
Of all the things that happen on campus, I think the beginning of the year is really beautiful because you have all these events with these new students. I remember there was there was Tiger Fest where you got kind of introduced to all the local businesses in Sewanee Village. You got to see, shenanigans and lunch. And there was a bunch of free stuff. Go to the activities fair, Fowler Fest, Tiger Fest, get all the free stuff. Like, don't buy cups. You will get lots of cups at Sewanee. Do not buy them. But, and then as the year progresses, you have, sororities and fraternities will hold events that are open most of the time. Many of them are open to, anyone, and then you'll have events like fall party and spring party, where, the entire student body just kind of gets together and has a good time. And then you have Swanaroo, the music festival that comes in the spring. So you really end up with, you always have something to look forward to.
One of my favorite events is Farm to Table, which is hosted by the Greenhouse, which is an organization for all of you outside-oriented people on campus. And so they host with a couple of different organizations. SGA is involved, Order of the Gown is involved. Actually, you name it, an organization has probably participated in it. And they bring in all of this food, and it's not just campus that gets involved, but the greater Sewanee community and Monteagle community who come together. And there's usually a little hootenanny, a dance, and some games. And I think it's just wholesome fun, and you get to see everyone around and meet some of the people who are part of the community who you don't get to run into on campus all the time.
That's a good one too. That one's fun too. Other things that are fun?
Okay, I'm definitely biased, but last year when we played Barry in basketball, it was our Pack the Mountain night. And they handed out free t-shirts, but like that's the most fun is when everyone gathers in the gym, even like just to watch the games and cheer on everybody. Like I love that we do like theme events for that for all the sports where we try and like pack the gym or pack the football field or whatever for like just to show our support for every sports team on campus.
Yeah, it's really easy to go to athletic events, and you should go. There's lots of sports and lots of ways to participate. Our student athletes on the panel would really appreciate you coming and cheering for them. That's great. Other favorite things? One of the things I hope that will continue to be even more fun is we opened the Beal Commons in January last year, which is our version of a student union. So it'll be open for the first full year this year. And we're getting all the things ready to go. So there'll be lots of fun programs there, movie nights, karaoke, all kinds of other things. And you can work there. They're hiring if you need a job. So I'm excited to see how the Beal Commons comes together this year. Okay. So we've mentioned Greek life a little bit. Several of you are members of the Greek community. So what do you think makes Greek life different at Sewanee than what people might find on other campuses?
So I can start with this one. So I think Greek life at Sewanee is wonderful, genuinely wonderful, because it is so much more inclusive than a lot of other schools. I think because we're such a small school and that we're so isolated that we've created a really great, wider Sewanee community that has extended into, Rush and Greek life. And what's really nice is that Greek chapters are a lot smaller here, so you get to know every single person that you are in that group with. I think what's really nice as well is that I'd say probably 90% of all Greek events on campus are open door past a certain time. So like 9:30 rolls around and it just like opens up. And so if there are bands on campus, even if you don't rush, you're still not just allowed but like encouraged to go. It's still like open to everybody. I mean, we've even had people that like don't go to Sewanee come to stuff, at like a house. And so that to me is just so special because you don't really get that at a whole lot of other schools. And in speaking with friends of mine that are at state schools like, Alabama and Auburn, that is just not the vibe there, that the Greek chapters can feel like an island at times. And at Sewanee, I would say that it's all very open, and that you have friends that are in different orgs too. You have friends that don't, rush at all. And I think that that's super rare. And I think that it's because Sewanee's done such a great job of just creating this incredible, community here. And so for me, those are kind of the things that stand out the most. And I think that also the Greek experience here is so positive that there's a reason that, I mean, probably over 3/4 of our campus, is in some way, I guess, affiliated with an org. And I think that it's because we all just care so much about it, and it's, safe and it's fun, and it's open to everybody, regardless of if you rush or not.
Okay, thoughts from the women's side? I think Stuart did a great job about the whole community, but any other things y'all would add?
I'll just add, I was never like the girl in high school that I was like, okay, I'm gonna rush when I get to college. Like I was just gonna play my sport and like meet my friends that way. And when I got to Sewanee, I was talking to a senior on the basketball team. She's like, "You're up rushing, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, like I guess." And then I did, and I'm like so thankful I did. He really did do a great job touching on it because like it just it really is just a like tight knit community, and like I love the idea of like your sorority, you know, everyone in like the other sororities too. So it's not like you're just isolating yourself. Like by being involved in one, you're getting involved in so many other things and making so many other connections that you can take with you for the rest of your life. And so I just think that that makes it different from like a big state school.
I think it's important to add one of the things that probably doesn't feel different to them because they go here, but is different compared to other campuses, is that Sewanee has a really heavily local Greek community. So most of our fraternities are affiliated with an international organization, which means that there are chapters of that organization on other campuses. On the women's side, they're mostly local, meaning that they're the only one of that organization in the nation. And so they have sort of a different experience, right? Being in a national organization is a great opportunity. You get more connection, you have more resource from a national organization and more structure. Being in a local means that you get to do more to create your own adventure. You can be more flexible based on the needs and desires of your own members. So there's pros and cons to both types of organizations, but most campuses don't have locals. And so that makes Sewanee a little different. So when's recruitment? How does that work for new students?
I can answer this one, since I work heavily with recruitment as the recruitment chair of my sorority. For upperclassmen rush, which is basically next semester, well, this upcoming fall semester, it's actually open right now. Donald just sent a email talking about it. You'll just fill out a form, basically, you know, all that good jazz. And then rush week comes where you'll learn about alcohol awareness and Title IX training, all that good stuff. For incoming freshmen, recruitment normally opens during winter break, and it normally closes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Stuart, by the way. Normally closes first day of classes, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's how they did it last year. But incoming freshmen aren't allowed to rush until the following semester, just so that they can get a feel of the campus first, get a feel of like what community they want to, you know, be a part of, and then they'll be able to rush. Upperclassmen transfers will be able to rush in the fall.
Yes. So you have to have completed one semester of full-time college work to participate in what students call uprush or upperclassmen rush in the fall, and then everybody else in the spring. So there'll be lots more information about that as well. Okay, last question about Greek life. Oh, Stuart, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, Morgan did an outstanding job with that, so I don't really have anything to like add on that front. But I would encourage all of y'all to at least go through Rush. You can always go through it and decide that you don't want to like, I guess like join an org officially. But I think it's a great way to just kind of at least try it. It's very friendly. And you can also wait until you are an upperclassman. I've known people that have rushed when they were seniors and they had a great time. So I would encourage everyone to at least, try it once. And if it's not for you, then that's totally fair. But I think it's great.
That is a great segue, Stuart. So what if students don't want to join an organization? So they decide not to go through recruitment, or they ultimately don't join a chapter. Or is it weird? Is it hard to make friends?
I wouldn't say so at all. I'm not involved with Greek life. I ended up going through recruitment and I dropped out of recruitment. But I've still been involved in many capacities. I go to, if it's Friday or Saturday, 9 times out of 10, I'm at a Greek event. I've been invited to Greek events with, with friends. I'll have friends who are in a different sorority and they'll say like, hey, like, do you want to come with me to this formal? And so I'll go and I'll see all of these different people. And so like, even if you feel like you're not ready for it at this point, it's a good thing to look at later and you'll still be involved with the community.
Great answer. Okay. Last section of questions I have is about balance, right? Transition to college, there's a lot happening. We've already heard about like study skills require different things. You have to figure out how to have a roommate, all of those things. So how do you balance being involved on campus and the things that you're involved in with all of your other commitments, like academics, sports, working a job, things like that? What are your
Can't remember
tips?
who said it earlier, but it's all about those healthy routines that you create. I'm a big fan of the color-coded Google Calendar. Don't know if anyone else is, but that is how I live my life, and I enjoy it that way. But it's all about that. And so you look at your week, and I work 2 jobs at Sewanee. For the past couple of years, I've taken the full 16 hours. Now down to 12, but I usually take the full 16 hours, and it is very manageable, even with extracurriculars on campus. I think you have to respect yourself, right? You may be a Morgan or I and join all these organizations and slowly filter them out as you realize, I don't have time to go to a meeting every single Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. But you figure it out, and people around here are so respectful and so kind. We live in EQB, and so everyone just they respect as you're figuring it out, because they're also figuring it out, right? We're all just people on this earth. So I don't know, the balance for me comes in the Google Calendar and having really great people around me who can respect when, I've done too much in the week, or maybe I've done too little, and I'm like, oh my gosh, fill it up. I need something for this slot. Who wants to go to the lake? But it's good, and the community really assists you through the process.
Great tips.
Like Alexis said, me and Google Calendar are like best friends. Like I don't accept anything until I check my Google Calendar. Send me an invite, I'll check it, and if I'm free, I'll say yes. That's the best way to get me to say yes to anything, if my Google Calendar is free. Also, with like working, I work at the student post office, and they're very flexible around like school. They're always going to put school first, because obviously, you can't have a job, unless you're in school. And if you fell out of school, then there is no employee. So they have to put school first. So they're very flexible. Like if you have, let's say, I know that my boss, Hillary at the student post office, if I have to go to office hours with the professor, but I'm scheduled to work, I can just let her know, as long as I let her know in a reasonable time. I let her know, hey, can I just go to these professors' office hours? And then I'll be back for my shift. I'll just be a little late. They're very, very respectful of like, we're students first. So I think that is also a good way to balance stuff, and just like setting, like Alexa said, setting healthy routines. I know that I have an app that I write all my stuff down, and it's like a little check mark thing. As soon as I hit the check mark, it's like confetti. It's like it makes my brain go crazy. I love it. But I would definitely recommend like getting an app to keep your stuff organized. Make sure you know when deadlines are going to be met. Make sure you know when you have a test. Plan out study times. I like to do that a lot. You can what am I trying to say? You can book a room in the library for that scheduled study time. It helps you stay responsible, because if you have a book room, no one can use that room but you. But just being manageable and like setting out a schedule is how I stay balanced.
Awesome.
Morgan, I think you and I have very similar lifestyles when it comes to keeping track of what we do. I
Yes,
have that.
indeed. Yes.
I can talk a little bit about from like a student athlete's point of view too. I worked a job at my first college, came to Sewanee, and I rushed. And so I didn't want to work a job my first year because I was still trying to balance everything. I figured out I had way too much free time, like for my own liking. So I work a couple of jobs now, but I would say for me the biggest like way to figure out what works for you is trial and error. And like they've all kind of touched on it a little, but you can join all these things and then be like, oh, maybe that's actually a little too much. Like I don't want to do that. And you can like take a step back. For me, my trial and error was I didn't work a job at Sewanee, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have way too much free time. So yeah, trial and error.
Awesome. Other tips about balance?
Yeah, over communicate. It's a big one. Since we're a small school, you get to know professors and administrators and your classmates and your friends really, really well. And the nice, kind of upside of that is that you just have to like communicate constantly. And I think that if you're really good about, emails and texts and just like staying on top of everything, that really helps work out a lot of the like, stress of just being, in college. So don't be afraid to just, even if it's, a 3 sentence email to a, you know, professor saying that you would like to come by, their their like office hours. I mean, that goes a long way. And I think it also just kind of helps you keep everything kind of like straight um in your own mind. But planners too. I use a paper planner and I love it.
Old school. Love that. Love that. Okay, my last question, and I want everybody to answer this to sort of wrap us up, is what's your number one tip? If people don't listen to anything else, if they just listen to this one tip, what is your best tip or piece of advice for incoming students? And anybody can go first.
I would just say be open. So like when you're trying to make friends, like be very open to like, oh, like you want to go caving. I've never been caving before. Go caving for the first time. Maybe your roommate and maybe y'all have different lifestyles. Maybe, be open, talk to them. Don't be afraid to say if something's bothering you. If you're at McClurg and you're not sitting with someone and you see someone sitting alone, and you know them from somewhere, go sit down. All of those little things, just being open, just being open whenever you can, those little things just compound to make your life so, so much better.
Great tip.
I was gonna say, don't be afraid to fail. Like we're all college students. If you need help in a class, no one's gonna like make fun of you if you want to study buddy, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to get a degree. Like that's the main goal here. Like we pay too much money to, be sitting around not knowing what we're doing. And it's okay to not have it all figured out. Like be okay with failure, but be willing to grow from that failure is my biggest tip.
I'd
Okay.
also say, oh, Faith, you
No,
can
go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I'd also say just ask lots of questions about everything. Google Maps is great to figure out things on campus. It's great. I remember my first day at Sewanee, I showed someone how to use a washing machine, and there is no shame in that. Everyone is here and we're here to help each other because we're just figuring it out. Even the adults on campus, right? Even your professors, the deans, everyone is here with questions and answers. And so don't be afraid to ask and to figure out how to navigate the Sewanee experience.
And I was gonna say, like, it's okay not to be okay. Like, coming into Sewanee, everyone is coming from a different experience, a different background. Like, no two people have lived the same life and are coming in like more ready. Like, no one's more ready than you are to come in because you're all coming from different places. So be like, this kind of feeds into all their points, but like, be open to other people, be willing to fail and like grow from that, and just know that everyone else is also in the same shoes as you. So like, it's okay not to be okay, it's okay to learn from that, and like, just be eager to be where you are, because Swanee is a great place, and if you give it a chance, you'll fall in love with the campus the same way all of us have.
Yeah, I think for me, be spontaneous, like as weird as that sounds. I know it's kind of a cliche, but I know like for me, I'm someone that loves to have like a plan. I love to have like kind of just a sense of like what I, will be, at like 8 o'clock. And I think that some of the most fun that I've had at Swanee and some of the most rewarding, you know, like experiences that I've had here as a student was just stuff that was like spur of the moment and just doing something wacky. And you'll find that you'll have a lot of opportunities for that here. So don't be afraid to just do something crazy, do something fun. If it's, whether it be like, a trip to the lake or even just, going to get, clerg. Don't be afraid to step out of what's comfortable, because I think that for me, I've had some of the most fun when I do stuff that I definitely did not plan to do.
Great tips, everybody. I learned some stuff about the ways that y'all are making friends and finding connection, some of which my areas help make happen. I get to work with all of our team and student involvement about planning programs and helping student organizations and being leaders and hanging out in the BL Commons. But a lot of it is just y'all being with each other, which is the fun part. So thank you, panelists. Yay, great job. And thanks everybody for coming and or watching us later. We will see you on campus very, very soon. So we're excited to do that. And please, if you see these folks or see me around campus, say hello. That's my favorite Sewanee tradition, is the passing hello. So say hi and ask us a question or talk to us about how to get involved or how to make friends or where's the whatever you're looking for. We'll definitely help you find it. Okay, thanks everybody. We will see you on campus shortly.